Draft season is officially upon us, and let's get it kicked off by dropping my big board for a glaring need the Miami Dolphins currently have, and that's at defensive tackle. Should the Dolphins double dip at defensive tackle, whether they re-sign Calais Campbell or not? Plus, do the Dolphins believe they are in it when it comes to re-signing Calais Campbell? Man, we got a lot to talk about. Plus, I got a little funny thing I want to show you that I've been meaning to get around to, but haven't had a chance to. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. And let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score! Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. It's going to be a touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. Shout out to each and every one of you coming through on this Saturday. I really do appreciate it because I'm excited that I get to drop my first big board, and we're getting kicked off with the trenches because my second big board that'll be dropping this coming week is also going to be trench related, as we will be doing the top guards in the draft, and I can't wait to get in on that one and turn some heads, man. I'm going to tell you, and I'll tell you why in a sec, but shout out to Bronx Finn, just signed up for the Patreon, trying to show support. And listen, I'm going to tell you that makes me smile, especially on a video like this where so much, I rarely ever ask you guys to donate, but on my big board videos, I will, because usually they get demonetized. I'll tell you a quick story. So basically what happens is they get demonetized by a company called XOS Digital. XOS Digital. Also, I have access to something called Catapult Thundercloud. Now, Catapult Thundercloud, you can go back to like 2019 and find all 22 of every game from every collegiate school. I have access to this massive library. And this year, for the first time ever, they updated their, I didn't notice because I didn't have to really do it until draft season. When I evaluate players, I do my evaluations. If there's certain plays I like, I'll timestamp them, the game, the time in the all 22, or the play, etc., and I'll come back, right? And now they like Netflix and other, they've actually disabled screen capturing. So it used to be a beautiful thing to just I could screen capture every play. Now I got to go through my backdoor access through Google Drives and such like that, which I've always had access to. I got access to Catapult about 3 years ago, but for years and years and years, I've had access to like actual Google Drives with massive libraries of film. So I've had to go back and do the old-fashioned, tedious way that I used to do. It's been such a hassle. So when I ask you guys to donate for videos like this, man, it's because I'm going to get demonetized and so much work goes into it, just clipping up plays. So I do appreciate you guys who become patrons, who become channel members. Now, what's the difference between a patron and a channel member? You get the same information, just in different formats. YouTube's a video platform, so I give you written formats of my 3 takes episodes. If you are a Patreon, you get the video formats of my 3 takes episodes. But with channel members, you also get access to emojis in the chat, etc., etc. Now, whatever tier you want to do, come with different perks that are listed, and It also just comes down to depend on how much you want to support me. You can also do the PayPal that I've got back up, paypal.me/Phinside NFL. That's up now. But these are the only videos where I really ask you to donate because I'm probably going to get demonetized. So that's 90 to 95% of my big board videos get demonetized. So when you donate through a super chat or whatever the case may be is through YouTube or whatever, YouTube will still take their 30%, but you will still get donations. The 70% of donations, all the ad revenue will go to probably XOS Digital, who owns Catapult. They're really like, I told y'all that whole story about the screen capture because they've been cracking down. They don't like, the NFL is much more friendly with you using film until, well, that free agent board. But I think that was because I used the NFL Pro. I've never used the NFL Pro. Usually I just do the replays and I cut them up. But XOS Digital has always been super strict with people using collegiate. I've talked to upper people at XOS Digital like via email correspondence about this before, and they don't budge because I've come from the stance of, hey, I'm promoting these kids, like, you know, like I'm trying to show these kids love, like I'm trying to put them on the map. I'm trying to make more people search for these kids and look for these kids, and they'll see them on my show, then they'll do their own research. You know, that's what I tell them, and they ain't having it. Like, they ain't having it at all. So thank you, Scorpion King. I appreciate it. $10 donation. I appreciate all the hard work reason. And I'll keep doing it. You know what I mean? Like, even if no one donated today, I'll keep doing my big boards if they get demonetized. You know what? Because I'm always about quality over quantity. I would rather show you why these players are in my top 5 of my big board than just show you a picture of the guy and you'd be like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? I'm all about that. And by the way, just an FYI, we're following the new method we learned from the free agent video. If the stream gets suspended, stick around because I will ride it out and then I will come back and tell you guys who's who if it does go down, and then I will chop that part out after the fact. But, you know, ride it out till I come back on screen. I will come back, all right? Just so we got that out there, but I don't think I will for college stuff. I'll just get demonetized after. Shout out to Aladino's wife. It's her birthday. Hey, man, it was just my wife's birthday 6 days ago. Happy birthday to your wife, man. I hope she has a fantastic day and a fantastic year. Okay, let's get into something. Now, River Cracraft. River Cracraft is now a Seattle Seahawk. Okay, and I get it, man. I liked River Cracraft. It looked like he was going to have a good year last year, and then he got hurt in that preseason game, and obviously we didn't get the year we expected out of River Cracraft. But, you know, again, we're seeing, you know, fans, oh my God, Cracraft, let's be real here. What are we losing? Listen, I love the player, I love the person, but I've still got to be an objective analyst for everyone that tunes in and watches me. What are we losing with River Cracraft? Okay, we're losing one of our best blocking receivers, but now what are we losing? We're just losing what if. Right? What if he didn't get hurt last year and he would have been healthy and he would have been able to play through the whole year? That's all we're losing. We're losing a what if. And I like the upside in this offense, but I'm gonna take Nick Westbrook Ikina over that. I'm sorry. And Malik's development over that. I'm sorry. You know, let's see what we got in Tajay Washington. So, yeah, I'm, you know, listen, I wish River Cracraft well. I really wish he didn't get hurt last year, because if he would have had the season we all expected, he'd probably still be here. But hey, man, it is what it is. But I see people making posts about it, and you know, these, you know, they know the name, so they gotta be heard about it. Like, and I see a ton of people doing that. So shout out to Anthony. I hope you're doing well. It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute, man. Me and him always say, and it's mainly my fault, we always say we'll get those spaces going, and we never do. We really do got to get those spaces going, I'm telling you. Especially with my kids back at school. Man, I got days free here. So, Yeah. Hey, I get it. Shout out to Ty Bless. All right. Right there. Hit him with that Justin Timberlake. Dun 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 dun. Ah. Dun 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 dun. Ah. Dun 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 dun. Ah. Dun 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 dun. Cry me a river. All right. So that's where I stand on River Cracraft. Good player, but what are we really losing, right? You know? Now, I saw the last couple of days, people were debating, especially on X, about Liam Eichenberg's money. They were looking up what his guarantees were. Listen. Here we go. Okay, let me be the first one to say. We need to stop worrying about Liam Eichenberg's money, and you need to worry about what I've been telling y'all recently, and that's the parallels between Liam and Driscoll in 2023 preseason scenes with Liam and Larry Borum at right guard this year instead of left guard last year's scenes, okay? That's what you need to be worried about. You need to be worried about that. All right? That's what I keep telling to these people. They're sitting here worried about the numbers. I'm sitting here saying, no. This is Liam / Jack Driscoll last year. That's exactly what it is. Don't tell me no different. Except now it's just Larry Borum's in the mix. I'm telling y'all. Renegade, you can't tell me that Driscoll wasn't better than Liam either, but this staff will tell you. They'll take you out to dinner. They'll wine and dine you. They'll take you back to the hotel room and lay you down and whisper sweet nothings in your ear about how Liam is the right guy over Jack Driscoll. So, bro, like, it's about this. And I don't know whether... Now, the main thing is who's the culprit? You know what I mean? Are we talking about a Chris Grier whisper, or are we talking about like an Eiffel Tower whisper with Chris Grier, you know, and Mike McDaniel or Frank Smith or Butch Berry? You tell me. I don't know. Okay? That's and this is what I keep going back to. And I've said this. Fireable offenses. I don't care who did it. Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg starting last year were fireable offenses. Again, I go back to this. And this, again, let me clarify. This is not a brag. This should put things in perspective. A guy on YouTube, go back and find it if you weren't watching me last offseason. A guy on YouTube before the season starts, you know, right there, okay, does a video on how Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg are not starting caliber offensive guards, and this is not going to go well. And a side note in that video is, hey, look at Andrew Meyer. He's more intriguing than these two jabronis. Keep investing in him. And notice how they haven't made an investment at center as a backup center yet. They've kept rolling with Andrew Meyer because I think they saw what I saw. So then that leads me to believe, if you saw what I saw in Andrew Meyer, what the hell are you seeing in Eichenberg and Robert Jones last year? And this is where it goes back. Fireable offenses. Whoever, okay, and I'll go chain. Everyone should be fired in this chain. The person who said, put him on the field, fired. The person who told person that said, put him on the field, that said, yeah, we can make it work, fire them. Now, if this is Chris Grier at the top of the list saying, hey, I invested heavily in the draft in him, make it work, fire him, okay? If it's Mike McDaniel then saying to Chris Grier, okay, Chris, we can make it work, I can make this work, fire his ass, like fire him. And then if it's Frank Smith or Butch Berry or a combination of Frank Smith and Butch Berry, whatever one of those two or both of those two saying to Mike, yeah, tell Chris we can make it work. You can go ahead and tell him we can work. Fire them. That goes for the people that said Robert Jones is a good contingency plan for Isaiah Wynn when y'all knew he had to step back and rehab. And that goes for whoever said in that same chain of command, if it went that way, for saying, hey, Robert Jones is a legitimate option to fill in. Robert Jones. Liam Eichenberg is a legitimate option to fill in for Robert Hunt. I've been consistent with this. Whoever made the decision whoever okayed the decision, whoever was on board with the decision, that Liam Eichenberg was sufficient enough to replace Robert Hunt, you got to go. Whoever made the decision, whoever okayed the decision, whoever was on board with the decision, whoever tried to convince anyone that this decision could work in terms of Robert Jones as a replacement for Isaiah Wynn, same thing, send him packing. I can't trust those type of people. We cannot trust those type of people making those type of decisions. Because you are in a position where you are supposed to be making millions of dollars. You are trusted to evaluate film, to make the proper calls on contracts, on starting roles, on where they fall in terms of depth, based on performance, based on film, not based on favorites, draft capital spent, money spent, guaranteed money. I don't give a crap about any of that. And I go back to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. A guy I really wanted in 2020 was Lucas Niang. If you remember, if you can go all the way back then. I really wanted Lucas Niang. Their tackle situation, they were all getting old. Mitchell Schwartz was getting old. Fisher was getting old. Everyone was getting old over there at tackle in Kansas City. What did they do? They drafted Lucas Niang, and he was going to be the successor. When they got Lucas Niang in the building, and after 1 year they realized he wasn't the successor, they kept him in the building. But what did they do? They went out and they sought after better upgrades at tackle because they weren't going to wait around for Lucas Niang. They didn't care that they invested the pick that they invested in him. They didn't care. They moved on with their life. They're like, yeah, we'll keep you on the roster, but we don't care. We spent the 96th pick on you, but that's great. Because that's what good teams will do. You could have kept Liam Eichenberg in the fray, but just kept adding to it. Instead, you kept trying to make a round peg fit into a square hole. So, like, I don't know, man. But, I mean, look at the effort the Chiefs put out in trying to fix that tackle spot, and that was after spending value picks at that spot, and they tried to get out ahead of it. Like, they tried to get out ahead of it too, right? So, like, they tried to get out ahead of it in that 2020 draft. And they just couldn't. Because the player didn't develop they wanted to. So, it forced them to go out and make their own changes. Right? They went out and they traded for Orlando Brown. Right? They went out and got Jawan Taylor. So, they went out and they invested. Right? From the Baltimore Ravens, they went out and got Orlando Brown. They said, we're not waiting around. Let's go get Orlando Brown. They went out and got Jawan Taylor. They didn't wait around, man. And here we are waiting around again, bringing Liam back. And I told y'all they'd bring him back. Unbelievable. So, I don't know. Craziness. Absolute craziness, but not surprised. Not surprised. But that's what people need to be worried about. Right? So, it is what it is. And what's crazy is you wanted to draft Brian Flores' alma mater Hunter Long instead of Quinn Miners, who I had on this channel and who was looking for property in Miami because he was so led to believe the Dolphins were going to take him. Your interior, could you realize this? What we could have been? Do you realize this? I want you to realize this. You could have standed pat instead of trading up for Eichenberg. You could have got Greed Humphrey. Your interior, you could have fielded when Mike McDaniel got here. If you got Armstead in free agency, you could have had Armstead, Quinn Miners, Creed Humphrey, Robert Hunt, and Austin Jackson. We're talking about feeding families for generations off that offensive line. We're talking about if 2-0 work, that next guy's coming in and he got a wall, baby. Instead, here we are trying to make Liam Eichenberg work again. Unbelievable. If that doesn't wreak a disappointment, I don't know what does. But we're trying, speaking of Liam Eichenberg, I've been trying to show this article to you guys for the last 5 or 6 shows, and it's just we ran out of time each time. But speaking of Liam Eichenberg, this is a perfect segue. If you didn't see this article from David Hyde about 6 or 7 days ago now, that's how long I've been trying to show this article. So now I've just cut out the excerpt because this is really why I wanted to show you. Look at what he said about Chris Grier. If this doesn't make you laugh, man, I don't know what will in life as a Dolphin fan. Read this. 6 winters ago, Dolphins owner Stephen Ross promoted Chris Grier from running the NFL draft to running the entire organization because, quote, everything you want to see this job is embodied in Chris. Mediocre decisions, underwhelming drafts, glaring problems. That's the embodiment of Grier's work. He is the Liam Eichenberg of general managers, given yet another chance to prove his worth, playing to a public course, hoping to finally see him in what Ross once did. This man just got compared to Liam freaking Eichenberg. Shout out to Dave Hyde. That might be the funniest comparison I've ever seen. Chris Grier is not happy about that. Chris Grier is all sorts of mad, just swiping the cup of pencils and pens off of his desk when he saw that. Just mad that he brought back Liam Eichenberg to even be compared in the same breath to that man. Oh my God. That is absolutely hilarious. And I mean, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think the name of the article is is the 10th time the charm for I forget what the name of the article is. It's something like, oh yeah, is Grier's 10th year running Dolphins draft the charm or the end? Isn't it 3rd year's the charm? 3rd time's the charm. We're on 10th times the charm. Holy jeez, bro. Never mind 3 strikes. We're giving 3 times the amount of strikes you would normally get to be out. Man, Chris Grier's getting up there, eh? Let's be honest. The only one who's afforded to be wrong at their job more than Chris Grier is the weatherman. And he's closing in. He's closing in. He's closing the gap, baby. It's crazy. It's crazy. Because listen, and I've defended Grier in the past, but even I've come to the point of, okay, even I've been to the point where okay, you've been here since 2000. What's the common denominator of us not having won a playoff game in 20 plus years? And it's you, sir. Whether it's you've been in the scouting department or the GM, brother, I don't know what happened, but once you walk through those doors, they should have locked you out like you were someone in the Patriots facility that pissed off, Tom Brady when he was there. It's crazy. So, man, but he just keeps getting the chance. And listen, I've defended some of his drafts. I mean, let's be honest. I just said what I said about how hard he whiffed on Liam Eichenberg and Hunter Long, but this is coming off of, Jalen Waddle was a home run. Jalen Phillips, the player, is a home run. The injury aspect, listen, these aren't the same injuries that he had at UCLA. Remember, he medically retired because of like concussions and stuff. He's had no concussion issues. Now we've had injury issues that weren't part of his medical history. He's having severe lower body injuries. But the player, man, the potential to be a top 10, top 5 pass rusher is there. The guy just can't stay healthy. So that was a home run based on just the player. Javon Holland, again, was a home run until what happened? The double knee injuries at MetLife. He's never been the same since that Black Friday game. But those 3 picks were home runs, and injuries has wiped out 2 of the guys. Holland was never injured at all at Oregon. He was like a total clean bill of health, and look what happened to him. Right? But those 3 were going to be home runs. They're going to be part of our core. 2 years ago, those 3 were locked in as part of our core. Now 1's remaining. You know? So, like, I've defended him because he's hit, but now, as time's gone on, it's not good. So, I get it, man. You know? Well, but here's the thing. Like, the 2020 draft, I was objective. You know, given what we were running and everything like that, I knew Austin Jackson wasn't a good fit. I wasn't a fan of the Noah Benogany pick. I love the Robert Hunt pick. I didn't like the Brandon Jones pick. He ended up being better than I thought. You know? So, end of the day, we don't have Howie Roseman, but no one has Howie Roseman. Let's be honest. You know? So, that's just where we're at. So, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, mope and cry. I mean, they're not moving off. And I'm going to tell you this much. And I've said this before, you know, and Patreon channel members, they know what I've heard. They certainly are moving like they're safer than a lot of us thought they'd be. Now, again, is that because they're given that leeway and they think they're close to a championship? Or is that because Ross has closed the checkbook? That's a different story for a different day. But listen, you know, Chris Grier, the thing is, we're in such a predicament, and I've said this, you know, I wonder if they try to take a quarterback somewhere, because they even mentioned that they would. They haven't filled the third round, that number 3 role. Now, maybe, I don't know. And, you know, they hit on, like, did they guarantee that money with Zach Wilson because of the traits? And are they going to spend a 4th or 5th round pick? Or are they going to get a UDFA as that number 3 quarterback? Because if they're spending a 4th, like, are they going to go after maybe a Quinn Ewers or a Tyler Show? Or are they going to go after Kyle McCord? Are they going to go after one of those guys who they think can actually come in here and compete and push? And then all of a sudden, like I've been theorizing this since the season, right? When I've talked about, you know, when I was talking about Jackson Dart at 48, my guy, I was telling all of you, listen, if you draft the right guy and they come in here, and I mean, you can use this for Zach Wilson too if you want, and they come in here and they show real upside, all of a sudden, you could extend your shelf life, because not only have you answered the contingency plan, you've potentially got someone that could, supplant Tua for the starting role if they develop properly. You know, and then you could show that to Grier if this person flashes when they come in for Tua being hurt, or in the preseason, you could show Grier, See what happened when I brought in my guy and I didn't have to deal with the guy who was here when I got here? I've maxed out what I can get. That player can't stay healthy. Yeah, I could get a bit more out of him, but that's on him. But see what happens when I get my guy with my vision at the position? See? That was my whole argument. And now if you hit on that again, you could it still stands. Now, I think two is better than Quinn Ewers. You know, I do. I think, You know, you would need a guy to hit as a passer with like athletic upside. That's why I was talking about guys like, I mean, hey, you can take a Brady Cook maybe late and hope it turns into something. I don't know. So it's interesting. No, I don't think Zach Wilson's gonna Bledsoe Tua. The problem with here's the problem with Zach Wilson. I'll go back to this and go back to the BYU film. You know what you do? Do me a favor. Go watch a couple games of BYU, then go watch a couple games of him as a starter. And I've talked about this. The issue he's going to always have is he can't play in structure. That's why Sean Payton sent him packing and kept Jarrett Stidham. He let those traits and that arm walk, which are all better than what Jarrett Stidham offers you, but Jarrett Stidham is a better passer from structure. And he's more reliable. That's why Sean Payton didn't like Russell Wilson. That's why Sean Payton loved Drew Brees, because Drew Brees will stay in structure. That's the issue you got right there. And what is Tua? I've talked about Tua since he's Alabama. He's a coach's dream because he will do everything you will say, even if you run the play and he knows it's dead, but you're telling him to run it. He's a coach. He will run everything in structure to the last point of how you want it ran. That's why a couple of interceptions, Mike McDaniel and Tua came out and basically told all of us last year it was on receivers, and most of the time they're talking about Tyreek running the wrong route or not getting to the right spot. Because he will do it to the design, to the T. And Zach Wilson is going to be a totally different animal from that. Go watch from BYU. It was always thriving out of structure, never in structure. And that becomes a problem, especially when you get to the playoffs. They're gonna what does Lamar had to keep getting better at? Beating you from the pocket in structure, because early on in his career, what happened to him? The Patriots figured him out, said, okay, yeah, run around, do all your stuff in the regular season, but come playoff time, you guys better run the football, and guess what, Lamar? We're going to keep you contained, and you got to beat us from the pocket in structure. And Zach Wilson can't do that. Kyle McCord could do that, I think. Tyler Show can beat you out of structure and in structure. Quinn Ewers can beat you in structure. You know, like, I think one of those guys would come in and could beat out Zach Wilson. Now, politics may come into play, and I've said this before. We're guaranteeing $6 million to Zach Wilson with upwards of $10 million. There's politics involved here now. Not with guaranteed money becomes politics. Remember that. And you all know it. So now, an interesting thing for me before we get into my big board here, Calais Campbell. Let's talk about this for a sec. Bear Jackson on Twitter. Someone asked him, do you think there's any chance and he's talking about the Dolphins, know something on Calais that we don't? Him returning makes a lot of sense based on how they have maneuvered. And then he goes on and says they believe they are in it. So, I mean, I think they've been operating like that. We've talked about that on this channel. That's been pretty obvious that they've been operating like they believe they're in it, like they believe they are going to get him back 110%. You know, 110%. They believe like they're going to get him back. Now, I will say this, right? Because I've been showing some stuff, and you're going to see some stuff here from Kenneth Grant. Signing Calais Campbell would not stop me from taking Kenneth Grant and double dipping later on in this draft at defensive tackle. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you 15 defensive tackles. I could have kept going. The lowest grade I have in my 15th spot is a 5th round grade. Everyone else you're going to see from 14 up is a 4th round grade or higher on my big board. It is that deep. And remember, 41 defensive tackles were invited to the combine. It is a crazy class. Like a guy who didn't make my list, who is at 16, who I would love in the 5th round, is a guy like CJ West. He didn't make my list. But man, if I would have gone to 20, he would have been the next man up. But I really like CJ West, but he just missed out because it's that stacked. And like CJ West is like top of the 5th round grade. You know, the guy you're going to see at 15 on my list is top of the 5th round grade. Not even like back end of the 5th round. It's that stacked. So, man, it is there's a lot of good guys in this. I mean, we've talked to another guy who didn't make this list. We talked about him on this channel, Thor Griffith. I really like what he offers you. But, you know, I don't know. I'm a big fan of this defensive tackle class, and I would be 110% in on double dipping. Calais Campbell would not stop me because I'm going to tell you this, and I talked about this. And I really, listen, I was going to do a video this past week and explain my thought process on this, but I'm kind of pushing it back to really see what happens. All right? But let me put it out there for you right now. Let me give you a half of it or whatever. If you were to draft a Kenneth Grant at 13, and now you've got Kenneth Grant, Zach Seiler, Calais Campbell, and then you add in Benito Jones and whatever depth guy you're going to add in the draft, or maybe you add someone before we go to camp to have a rotation behind them, along with Chop, Chubb, Phillips, Kamara. I mean, all of a sudden, that front, I mean, look at what the Rams did last year with that front by just adding Braden Fiske and Jared Verse. Grant's going to be better than Fiske. Chop and Verse are kind of on the same level. Verse might be a little bit more, is obviously a little bit more polished as a pass, well, as a run defender right now, but Chop is getting there. You saw the improvement. From snap 1 to his final snap of the year as a run defender. So, you know, but and then you add on the rest we got in the interior. Zach Seiler's better than anything they got in that interior. Phillips and Chubb staying healthy. Holy jeez. Like, that front would be absolutely phenomenal. Mixed in with the way our linebacker unit is built right now. It's built better than, I've gone over this, it's built better than it was in the 2024 preseason, right? When you look at David Long Jr., Anthony Walker, and Duke Riley being the 3 behind Jordan Brooks. Right now, Tyrell Dotson is an upgrade over David Long Jr. We saw that last year. KJ Britt's an upgrade over Anthony Walker. You know, that's easy. And Willie Gay is a massive upgrade over Duke Riley, an upgrade over Anthony Walker, and an upgrade over David Long Jr. Let's not lie to ourselves. So, I'm telling you, I like what I see. Shut out. Reason fans at home see stuff in the building. Don't. 3 hand face emojis, and you called it. Appreciate you, sir. We need to take 2 minimum. Too much talent in DT and big edge guys. This class is stacked, man. This is a good class. It's a good class. So let's get into this. We got quite a bit to talk about here with the defensive tackle big board. So let's get into our honorable mentions, and let's start off. I told y'all about 15, and that for me has got to be Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon, 6'2", 332, has a strong, sturdy anchor, has a high motor, and it was higher than what I expected to see when I put his film on, I'm not going to lie. He can take on doubles, displays his power in the lower half when he sinks his hips, and it's tough to move and displays his power in the upper half when he takes on a blocker at the point of attack. Packs some serious pop in those hands too. I thought he moves better on tape than what he tested. But his combine, let's be honest, it was pretty disappointing. Doesn't offer a ton from a pass rush standpoint. He's got 32-inch arms. Those are short, and they're a detriment on tape. His gap integrity isn't that great at times too. Leads to plays against the defense. 14, I got Shamar Turner, not to get confused with Shamar Stewart. That's an edge. This is the DT. Obviously, hey, Stewart could play inside too. He's flexible all across the line, but I digress. Shamar Turner, 6'3", 290. He's a versatile weapon across the defense, just like Stewart. He can line up as a 0, although he's a little light at the next level. All the way out to, he can flex from a 0 all the way to the outside as a rusher off the edge in pass rush situations. He's a natural pocket disruptor, uses his length really well. Always active, whether he's trying to penetrate the pocket, hunt down the ball carrier, or trying to swat down a pass. I think he knows how to use his body for his size really well to fill the run lanes too. I think his hand placement is wildly inconsistent at times. Doesn't have a really wide array of pass rush or counter moves. And balance. He needs to play with better overall balance because, he loses leverage battles because of his lack of balance. Jordan Phillips at 13 here. Maryland. Not to be confused with the former Dolphins player, Jordan Phillips. He's out of Maryland, 6'1.5", 312. He can display some serious power on that interior. Moves better than one would think for a man that stout too. Maintains a good pad level consistently that helps him win his leverage battles. Displays some pass rush upside. Has absolute hammers for hands. Has a high ceiling at just 20 years of age. I think he just needs more reps. He's still quite raw as an overall pass rusher and run defender. He needs to expand his pass rush skill set. Doesn't show the ability to counter a blocker that stifles him on the first move. His college production wasn't that great. He's basically getting drafted on what he could be, I think. Joshua Farmer at Florida State. He comes in at 6'5". He's my number 12 guy here, 305. Moves really well for a man of his size, whether it's laterally, his first step, or exploding out of his stance. I actually expected him to test even better at the combine than he did. I think he stacks and sheds to get off blocks well. Has powerful active hands. Shows upside as a pocket disruptor in pass rush situations and is solid against the run. Good gap integrity. Really good play diagnosis ability, I thought, too. This kind of stuff between the gap integrity and the play diagnosis ability, it helps lead him to fill the right gaps more often than not. Like most listed to this point, his pass rush game plan is limited besides a few moves. Lack of counters have stalled him out by good disciplined blockers. And his motor, it's not running as hot as a lot of the top guys in this class. That's what I think. Number 11, Aeneas Peebles out of Virginia Tech. Peebles is one of my sleepers of this defensive tackle class. Now, he's just over 6 foot. He's 282 pounds, so he's undersized. But, man, I love his athleticism. I love the explosiveness in his first step and off the line. Well, I think Peebles has a motor that runs on absolute high octane. Plays with a nasty streak that you see come out in the violence of his hands and is naturally a disruptive force along the defensive front. Peebles is a great run defender who uses a strong anchor and his upper body to win consistently in leverage battles, shoots gaps often, always keeps his legs turning. And for his weight, doesn't struggle like you'd think he would against doubles. In fact, he can split them, no problem. Obviously, his size is going to be seen as a downside. As a pass rusher, he needs to be developed much more, and he may be seen primarily as a run defender and maybe a special teams contributor early on in his career. Now, let's get into my top 10, and let's start off at number 10. Omar Noman Lott out of Tennessee. He's 6'1", 7/8". He's a little light at 291 pounds, but, the testing matched the explosiveness you see on tape. Even if he only gave a vertical and a broad jump, That vert was 31.5, and that broad was 9'5". He may be one of the highest upside pass rushers in this DT class, as his hands are violent, active, knows how to use the length he was given. He's got 33 and 5/8 inch arms, times his get off really well, can stop alignment in his tracks at the point of attack and blow by the blocker in the blink of an eye, or he can win with a nice pass rush set where he utilizes a swipe, long arm move, and I think his counter move set is quite underrated. He's a good run defender that plays consistently with good pad level, allowing him to win in his leverage battles more often than not. Another guy in this class that doesn't take a down off and plays like his life is on the line with every rep, which you'd love to have in your locker room. Anchor, due to size, can sometimes negatively impact him, especially when you see him take on doubles. He's still raw from a rep standpoint, and though he shows promise as a run defender, it's been a small sample size so far, and he needs to be continued to be developed there. Number 9, I got Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. He's just over 6'2.5". And the power his frame packs matches the heavyweight class he comes in. He's 334 pounds. What's impressive about Tyleik to me is how well he moves and how explosive he is with that first step. He doesn't just have strong upper and lower halves to his body. His hands have more pop than a can of soda, while they stay active and are clean from technique to grip strength. Doesn't take a play off, has a nasty side to him, is a stout run defender, and could be a force as a pass rush disruptor if developed his pass rush game plan a little bit better and his moveset. He can already cause massive issues just with his strength alone. Arm length isn't ideal at all, which can give him issues with blockers. He's going to probably need to shed some weight at the next level and be more consistent with his pad level, because he can get washed out when he gets too high, like quite easily. Number 8, I was really, really high on this film when I came away from it. Darius Alexander out of Toledo. 6'3 and 7/8, 305. Alexander's a really impressive prospect. That is a really great athlete for his size. We're talking about like a top 100 ever defensive tackle RAS score, and has been clocked on GPS moving at 20 miles per hour at that size. Oh, yeah. By the way, he could bench over 400 pounds, and he did 28 reps of 225 pounds at the combine. He offers you the flexibility across that defensive front you like to see, as he can line up off the hip of an offensive tackle as a 5-tech, or all the way inside over the center's nose as a 0. The athleticism really pops off the tape at you with how explosive he is with his first step. He looks really fluid shooting gaps, and he's also quite agile too. Hands are active and violent. They stay that way. Has a motor that just continues to always run hot. He's responsible with his gap integrity, can stack and shed blocks consistently. He's a really good run defender. Age is going to be the first thing that's talked about and held against him. He's 25 and coming off 6 years of college. He doesn't tend to have a strong pass rush game plan or a very deep arsenal of pass rush moves. He can get too high with his pads, and the jump in competition from the MAC to the NFL is going to be pretty massive. So that's going to be interesting to see, is that jump for him. Now, Alfred Collins, 6'5", 332 pounds. One of the better run stoppers in this draft, whose play strength is just as impressive as his gap integrity. Alfred Collins has top end length and size for the interior with 34 and 5/8 inch arms and a wingspan of 85 inches, but he doesn't just have that. He knows how to use it, as seen by the way he stacks and sheds, specifically when he uses his long arm shed move to get by a blocker. Collins has a really strong lower base and anchor, which makes him difficult to move off of his spot with just pure power. He takes on double teams with rarely any issues and has vice-like grips for hands that once they lock onto and under your pads, yeah, you're moving. You're locked in and you're moving. What's really surprised me was how quick his feet were and how quickly he exploded out of his stance. I expect him to be a tick slower, but it's impressive. As a pass rusher, Collins needs to refine his pass rush bag of tricks and his counters. He's limited to only a few moves he seems comfortable with, while I also think he leaves a little to be desired in the athletic and agility department. Now, TJ Sanders, South Carolina Gamecock TJ Sanders. He's my 6th guy here.
He was one of my favorites of this class to watch. 6'3", 7'8", 297 pounds. Has physical traits that will have most NFL front offices and scouting departments salivating at the potential off of it if it's all put together. In terms of alignment, he's probably works best in a defense as a 3-tech, but he can flex out to a 5 if you need him to. As a pass rusher, he has a strong arsenal of pass rush moves all the way from clubs to rips to swims, and also consistently wins with counter moves, as he's not one of the guys in this class that needs big growth as a pass rush game planner. His hands are heavy and violent that can stun, shed, or discard a blocker with ease. He has really good bend and flexibility to his frame and is a good run defender, especially given his size. Obviously, he's not a gap plugger, but I think he plays bigger than his 290 pounds, though some scouts may still hold that against him. Sanders can be washed out by doubles from time to time due to lacking his anchor can just lack. That's it. And I think he needs to clean up his hands because as violent as they are, he tends to misplace and mistime his initial punch, a little too often. So that said, let's get into the film. Let's get into my top 5 guys. And it starts with one of my man crushes that people seem to be out on now, who were really high on last offseason, but I'm sticking with them. And that's Deone Walker out of Kentucky. I know Walker didn't have the 2024 season that everyone had hoped about at 6'7", 342, while having just turned 21 on March 11th. He's one of my man crushes in this draft. Obviously, Walker, he's an absolute tank of a human being, and it shows up on tape frequently. He wins leverage battles with his Thor-like strength, takes on doubles with ease, and can discard blockers by just overwhelming them with just brute force. That's it. What I love about Deone Walker, too, is for a man that size, pause, and with that kind of power, double pause, he's so nimble from an agile sense, and he looks the part of a better athlete on tape than what he tested at the combine. When you talk about versatility, it's even more crazy to think about how he's been flexed out, standing up to rush off the edge, all the way inside to over center as a nose tackle again at 6'7", 342 pounds. He's got powerful hands that can discard a blocker with a quick swipe or a double-handed swipe, can power through a gap through a blocker with a impactful club, and he actually has a decent pass rush moveset. Well, I think he's underrated as a pass defender, but all the tools are there to be an impactful third down player on a defensive front. I think one of the big things for him is figuring out his body. This is why he didn't test as well as people expected him to, and from what they saw on film, it showed up with conditioning issues where he looks like he's winded late in games. Leverage will also be an issue at that size. So pad level, overall technique, and being clean fundamentally will mean even more for a player like him. Deone Walker has one of the highest ceilings in this class, and maybe even even in this draft, because if he's nurtured and developed properly by the right defensive minds, the sky's the limit for a player like that, man. That is just what it is. Number 4, Derek Harmon. He's 6'4.5", 313 pounds, and a really good athlete who could easily sneak into the first round, especially as we get deeper into the 20s, which I think is in part due to his profile, tape, and extreme versatility, as he's capable of lining up along your defensive front from the 0-tech all the way out to a 5-tech. He's coming off his best statistical year of his career after he transferred from Michigan State to Oregon, where he produced 5 sacks, forced 2 fumbles, had 2 fumble recoveries, and accounted for 45 total tackles, including 27 solo, all career highs. Harmon flashes as a really good athlete on tape with nice switch and explosiveness, especially in his first step, which allows him to be a constant pocket disruptor against the pass while he knows how to use his length and strength to his advantage. As a pass rusher, I would have liked to see him get home more, but he has a good pass rush arsenal and plan utilizing a bull rush, clubs, rips, push, pulls, swims, etc. But I think he has a motor that runs hot, and due to his pass rush plan isn't washed out, if the first move doesn't work, he'll hit you with a counter and shoot the gap. Has a really good nose for the ball as a run defender. He can shed off all blocks, penetrate and stop the runner, deaden his tracks in the backfield. He has that type of explosive ability to his game. When I mentioned I wanted to see him get home more, there's a few reasons why. He'll whiff on a sure tackle that will leave you frustrated, or shoot a gap and overextend past the quarterback or the ball carrier and miss a sure sack or defensive stop. He needs to clean that up. His pad level is inconsistent, leading to leverage issues, and I think he needs more his hands. He just needs more patience overall to his game because his hands get too erratic with placement at times. So Number 3 is Walter Nolan. He's a prospect whose draft status is probably going to be impacted by character concerns, but I'm here to judge the film, and based on the film, he shouldn't get out of the first round, in my opinion. You name it, Nolan pretty much has it. Twitchiness, explosiveness, a top-end motor, the power you need to succeed on the interior, moves well side to side, and has the football IQ you like to see by using the length he has to fit him and use it at its best disposal. Walter Nolan has violent and active hands that pop more punch than a red fruity drink. Speaking of punches, when he lands that initial one on a blocker, they get stunned like Steve Austin just hit him. It's crazy the power transfer he gets in those mitts at times on film. Very impressive. What I love too, especially as a Dolphins fan, he is as sure as a tackler as there is in this class. He rarely misses. He only had 5 missed tackles in 3 years, including 0 in 2023. He takes on doubles no problems, really shines as a run defender. Hand placement's consistently good. He can stack and shed with the best of them, and has the athleticism, pursuit ability, and high IQ to take good angles and finish off ball carriers. As a pass rusher, he shows the ability to set up a solid pass rush game plan, has a strong set of pass rush moves, and can also disrupt the pocket from anywhere across the front, as he can line up from a 0 all the way to a 5 and be used as a looper and on stunts. Pad level needs to be lower more consistently, needs to keep his legs driving more consistently, as he can be too quick to disengage instead of driving back, and he needs to widen his base as it impacts his footwork and anchor against blockers. So, hey, people didn't want to bet on Jalen Carter and Tavondre Sweat because of character issues. I'm betting on a guy like this. Walter Nolan, character issues aside, the film screams round 1. Mason Graham, he's my second guy up, my first big board of the year, and this is my first controversial ranking, as I have him my number 2 guy. I think he's a higher floor prospect than Kenneth Grant, making him a safer pick. So I would understand why he goes higher. He's a great athlete for 6'3.5", 296, with great burst out of his stance in short areas. An explosive first step with great strength to his frame to match his quickness, making him a handful for interior blockers as soon as the ball is snapped. And he offers you versatility across the front, though I think he's best suited as a 3 tech in the NFL. Has violent, heavy, active hands, but what's so impressive is how consistent and how impactful his placement always is with them. He just flat out knows how to use them and either win hand fights, shed them, or move a blocker out of his way with them. They are vice-like with big brains attached to them. He's an elite run defender. There's really no dressing it up. It's the first thing that's evident next to his athleticism and movement ability, whether laterally or in pursuit when you put on the film. He's also consistently winning in his leverage battles with a solid anchor, consistently good pad level, and a motor that never quits. Like Walter Nolan, Graham is a sure bet as a tackler too. He's only missed 4 tackles during his whole college career. He's so fundamentally sound, aggressive, and determined, so once he gets a hold of you, it's a wrap. Now, he does need to continue to develop as a pass rusher, though. His pass rush game plan and moveset leave much to be desired, but the foundation is there with his traits alone. Length to his frame isn't high end, especially his 32-inch arms, and I think he just needs to become a better finisher overall as a pass rusher when he gets there to take the next leap in his game. So, he's probably one of the safest and cleanest prospects of this class, with a little room to grow as a pass rusher, but he's a day 1 starter, a top 10 pick in this class. And, he's a top 10 pick in a draft that doesn't have very many first round grades, so he's certainly worthy of one. Mason Graham is a monster. Now, number 1 is Kenneth Grant. When it comes to the 2 top Michigan interior defensive linemen, if I have to bet on the growth and development as a pass rusher, I'm taking Kenneth Grant and his unreal freakish athleticism and upside as a football player in this situation as my top defensive tackle in this class. 6'3", 5'8", 331. Can do Turkish get-ups with 150-pound dumbbells. Has been clocked at a 29-inch vertical. 18.75 miles per hour on a GPS running. The tales of Kenneth Grant's crazy athleticism and powerful frame show up all over his film, whether it's winning with a bull rush to hunt down a quarterback or fighting through a double in pursuit of a running back he eventually takes down. There's some truly impressive things this kid does that makes you say, wow. Grant is a top-tier run defender. He can eat up doubles, maintains good gap integrity. He can shed and stack blockers, can win with pure power, and is capable of running down backs 10+ yards downfield like he did against Penn State in 2023. As a pass rusher, I've seen him push pockets back on a bull rush with one hand, and then like you just saw against Penix. So when he uses his explosiveness, length, and athleticism to win with a swim over move and instantly penetrate the backfield, it's a beautiful thing, though I do think he needs to expand his bag of tricks. His upside as a pass rusher from the interior is so high. He boasts a solid anchor that can make him damn near immovable for a blocker, and his motor runs hot, making him even more of a handful for a blocker for 4 quarters until the very sound of the last whistle. He offers you versatility up and down the defensive front, has quick feet, hands are lightning quick, consistently well placed, and can send a thunderbolt through a blocker to stun them with his punch. And what I do love most is he'll do whatever it takes to impact a play, whether it's opening up lanes by eating doubles for teammates, hunting the quarterback down, or the ball carrier himself, and even batting down balls at the line of scrimmage, as he had 12 over the last 2 years. He just never takes it down off. Like I said, Grant is going to have to continue to expand his pass rush repertoire. It's unknown if he can take on a big workload, as 2024 was his first season with over 500 defensive snaps. Pad level can be a bit too high. I tell you, I love a kid like that, man. You know, I think he just needs to be polished overall with his technique. You know, that's it. Kenneth Grant only had 939 reps over the last 3 years at Michigan. So, I mean, you look at this. I mean, to me, Kenneth Grant has the upside like a guy like Will Johnson, where he could be the best player in this draft. So, sign me up for Kenneth Grant. All day, my DT1. Guys, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Shout out to Kevin. Says, reason I say that Miami picked 3 O-line and 3 DL. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm down. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. I'm going to get out of here. I will be back if something breaks this weekend. If not, I'll see y'all next week. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. We'll see y'all on the next one.